Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. Today we are using some of our garden harvest and we are making chicken wing sauce. This recipe is super exciting and it's pretty simple for ingredients, just a little bit time consuming. So the first thing you're going to need is 10 cups of peeled and chopped paste tomatoes. You can use regular tomatoes, but those are going to be really seedy. So we used paste tomatoes. We have Roma's, San Marzano to be specific on variety. And we are going to need 10 cups of these. So I'm going to insert a video here really quick to show you how easy it is to actually peel them. It's a super simple process. It takes about 60 seconds and it just makes everything so much easier to sit and try and peel these. So I'm going to insert that right now. So you have your tomatoes washed. You have to take your tomato, use a paring knife, and score an X on the top of every single one of those tomatoes. We're going to dunk them in boiling water for 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, you can take a slotted spoon, pull them out, and immediately dunk them into cold water. This is going to allow the hot and cold to have the skin slip up, and it'll also make it so that it's easier for us to handle. So if you look, you can see that the skins are right starting to come off. And that's when you start chopping them to make your 10 cups of chopped stuff. So your 10 cups of onions are paired with 2 cups of chopped onions. They don't have to be finely diced. They could even be bigger than this, but 2 cups. And then 1.5 cups of white vinegar, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 4 teaspoons of salt. We're using fine sea salt. 2 cloves of minced garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then 1 teaspoon each of cinnamon, ginger, allspice, you're on and ground allspice, and ground cloves, so just 1 teaspoon each of those. In terms of equipment, you're going to need about 8 to 10 sterilized jam jars, so those are 1/2 pints, 250 milliliters. You're going to need a stock pot big enough to host all of your ingredients to cook down, your boiling water canner, and then you're going to actually need either a blender or a food processor, or even like a hand emulsion blender would work. But we are eventually, once this is all cooked down, going to blend it up to make a sauce. So you need something to blend all those things down. Okay, so we are going to take our 10 cups of the tomatoes, which we just have in a pot here. To this, we are going to add our onions. So that's the 2 cups of the chopped onions. Our 1/3 cup of our brown sugar and our 1/2 teaspoon of that cayenne pepper. And you're going to want to mix this all around really well, just stirring it and make sure that brown sugar gets coated nicely over top of the tomatoes. And we are going to bring this to a boil on the stove. And once it's to a boil, lightly boil it for about 1/2 hour. So as you can see, everything's mixed in here. And then as I said, we're going to bring this to a boil. Once you see it boiling, throw a lid on it, 1/2 hour. We'll see you then and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now that it has been on the stove for 1/2 hour, we are going to pull this off of the heat and we're going to let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes. And we're going to start pureeing this batch of stuff up and put it back into the stock pot. So I'll see you in a few minutes once this is cool and it's easier to handle it. Look, we're just going to pull this right off the stove. Now, working in batches, it took me about 3 batches of putting it into the blender, about halfway full. We are going to puree everything up. Having a separate little container with a way to put the puree in, because you can't put it back in the pot while stuff is still in there, is a great idea. You can just have a big mixing bowl, another pot, whatever you have, putting your puree in there until we get it all done up. So we're going to puree everything up, and then once it's all pureed and this pot is empty, we're going to put it back into the pot. So we've got our puree back in the pot. It's at this point we're going to add all of those other ingredients. So your minced garlic, those 4 teaspoons of different spices, your 4 teaspoons of the salt, and your 1.5 cups of your vinegar. And you're going to want to make sure to really incorporate that. I'm going to use a whisk and just really whisk all these together. We're going to throw it back on the stove and get it back up to that gentle boil. Okay, so we've got it to this gentle boil. Every once in a while, you're going to want to come just whisk it around, make sure nothing's like burning to the bottom and that everything's incorporated. But we're going to keep this on for an hour in order to get to that commercial consistency. Now, I would say at about the half an hour mark, you're going to start checking to make sure that you're still good. It could even be at that point the commercial consistency that you like. But make sure at about the half an hour mark, you have your canner going. You want that water bath boiling canner to go, because once this is ready, we need it to be hot and the water canner to be hot so that we can start processing it. So I'm going to set a timer for half an hour. When that is done at half an hour, we're going to turn our boiling water canner on, and then that can run for like the last half an hour that I'm doing this. So an hour total on the stove, and we will see you then. Okay, so it's been about an hour. As you can see, it has cooked down because this is where we started with on our line. So we've cooked down. We're a nice thin sauce consistency. And at this point, we can can up our stuff. So we are canning using our funnel, and we're leaving 1/2 inch head space. Then you're going to want to use a knife and just go through each jar and remove any potential air bubbles that pockets bacteria. Use a damp cloth. I'm using a paper towel to wipe the rims of each jar where the seal of the lid will go. And then you simply pop your lids on and screw the bands on fingertip tight. And like I said, just fingertip tight because you don't want to siphon the lids inside the canner. And we're going to put them in our boiling water canner. And once it's to a full rolling boil, we are processing them for 15 minutes. So I will be back in 15 minutes to show you what they look like. And here, after 15 minutes, is our chicken wing sauce. Hope you guys enjoyed.